Hey you guys, it's the daily. It's part number 3 of this pretty simple daily about the 2 racks. We're seeing that it's less about the aggression at the start and more about how it shapes the base that our opponent can possibly have, making things like follow-up drops or follow-up attacks super cool. The one that really inspired me was, of course, the MarineKing Prime game, because he just did such a great job and, again, opened our eyes to why we really love Combat Shield instead of Stim. Ugh. The exception to that is what we're going to see right now. This is yet another game between Illusion and In Control, because there was a whole set of them, and because Illusion did a lot of 2-raxes. But what we're going to see is a variant. As far as I'm concerned, if you were trying to do the 2-racks build and you wanted to watch all 3 parts of the daily to make sure you had all the answers there, I think you can actually stop right now and just trust what was in the first 2 parts. You should totally keep watching, because part 3 is going to kick ass. Whoa! But honestly, I think that the first 2 chunks really showed the true awesomeness of it. I just figured I'd throw in a variation because we had time. Here is Vile Illusion. And okay, because we have time, I just want to ask, what just happened? Look at the way that he's going to hotkey this. Alright, I know a lot of people, like Protosses, will hold control and just put his finger on control 1, just go all the way from 1 to 0. And just hotkey everything to his command center. Which is great. It's a very normal thing to do. Tons of people do that. The ordering weirded me out. Let's be weirded out together. Alright, get weirded out. Here he goes. He's going to move it. And what happened? Oh, what the hell? Alright, I want to see if I can get the ordering of how he hotkeys this. What? 1, and then 3, and then 5, and then 7, and then 8, and then 2, and then 4, and 0, and finally 6. Finally 6. We're going to wrap it up with Control Group 6, apparently. I don't know, maybe Vile Illusion is some sort of penguin? Perhaps it's Flippers trying to flop along here. I don't know, maybe he's some kind of stag and his hooves don't quite roll accurately across the keyboard. But Vile Illusion, regardless of whether he has hooves or not, certainly can micro with whatever sort of clopping he's doing. Anyways, alright, let's do a little compare and contrast. Evil geniuses in control. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Is going to be just going for a gateway expand, pretty typical. Vile Illusion going to open up in the usual Shazang. In Control is going to pop in, sneak out, not going to steal any gas. Second barracks going down. In Control, going for a 2-gate expand. Must have been thinking of another game when I said 1-gate expand, because there's the second gateway. And a 2-gate expand is a very comfortable way to open on a map like Belshear Beach, where you have a nice little bit of openness. This can be a touch of an issue if you're 2-raxing, trying to move up this wide ramp, but this ramp is far enough away from this expansion that it's quite comfortable. The reasoning is that if you wanted to warp in just in time as Protoss, you'd have to put the pylon here, so that way you could warp in this range and plant those stalkers there, and that would make you safe. But when the push arrives, if you have that pylon here, you just kill it. Your pylon really has to be here or here to be safe against some sort of early pressure. Alack-alas, all aside the point. Now, I do think Vile Illusion kind of sells himself short a little bit here by building such an early bunker. This will throw off In Control because all he sees is a single barracks. He sees a bunker here at the front. Oh, crap! He didn't see the gas. Well, looks like In Control, regardless, is scouting really aggressively for some sort of proxy. And we'll be doing the expand at around 6 minutes. I don't think this early game is going to be too incredibly important. But Vile Illusion is still going to be going for the 2-gate. There's the Stim coming up. You heard me say before, I really don't like the idea of getting a very fast Stim upgrade, but instead of getting the expand, and instead of putting pressure, which, by the way, Illusion totally should be putting pressure on right now. He absolutely should have just skipped this bunker and moved forward. I mean, with 3 gates, he moved forward and still pulled back comfortably. Against 2 gates or anything else, he would either do damage outright, or he'd wrap it up pretty quickly. And pull back home anyways. Be the same effect, except it would do a little bit more damage. And we see in Control still having this effect of building not that much tech back home in his base. There's a small exchange here, which ends up being, I think bad for in Control, but this exchange that happened here wouldn't be terribly much different than an exchange that would happen here if Vile Illusion was really aggressive. But we just pretty simply get up to Medivacs, Shazink, and we move out. And of course, I think a very reasonable question is, wow, this seems great. This seems to do everything that the other build did before, but faster. And the answer is yes, but we don't have an expansion, so we better win with this attack. And of course, with any sort of fancy time force fielding, we just waltz up. And there's the good game. And then Control saying that he did a little bit of a whoopsie-daisies trying to check around for a proxy, which we saw. But the important thing is that this actually works great on Tal'Darim Altar. Oh, does it work amazingly well on Tal'Darim Altar, but I still think it would be strengthened with a little bit more aggression at the start. Just another variant for you to play with, because I don't want anyone to ever feel like when they're doing some sort of opening that they are somehow forced along a certain path. In fact, probably the best players out there are the ones who have an opening, and they drill it a lot, and they try to work down a path, but they're very comfortable with this wiggle, with this flexibility, and whatever your intuition tells you to do, I trust that. Use this as a skeleton, and then all your intuition puts the muscle on that to form a full living organism. I wouldn't necessarily say that you have to do some sort of immediate medevac follow-up. The important thing is to note that, hey, his base is shaped in a certain way. I have seen players do things like they open up with a lot of aggression with this 2 racks, and then based upon how much damage they do with the 2 racks, they maybe take a 3rd expansion and then build a bunch of barracks. Or just build a bunch of barracks and then immediately follow it up with more ground pressure. I've seen people follow it up with adding on another barracks, a Ghost Academy, and then getting 2 ghosts and doing a follow-up push. All are very reasonable, because it's very hard to be up against someone who has a substantial tech ground army. It's basically going to be fundamental gateway units. So we're taking questions. We're taking questions. We're taking questions. Markio's question grabber is not loading any questions. I'm trying to refresh the question grabber. Well, whatever. Let's take them right out of here. Ba-da-da, ba-da-da. Some people asking about why I get these replays instead of other ones. These are the ones that I had available. I looked at a bunch of games today, and I was like, these all suck. I'm not going to do any of these. So that's when I started asking Mike for help. Be like, oh, do you have any replays? So I saw this cool 2 racks and was like, let me see if I can get some more 2 racks games. That's a really sort of tragic / interesting aspect of the daily, is that there are probably at least like an hour of games that I'll watch a day that I'm like, well, these are terribly not educational. I'm not going to do any of these. So I don't. Or maybe they're educational, but there's like, the knowledge is like a 5-minute speech and that's it, and I can't stretch it to an hour. So some days it ends up being like 4, and I'm like, God, I can't find anything. And that's when Husky saves me. Let me see if the question grabber's working. Oh! Asusko says, Day 9, what do you think about getting quick ghosts instead of medevacs? Love it. Let me see. So here's kind of what I think about ghosts. If we envision the attacks as my finger in space, it would be like the 2 racks pressure, and then the medevacs, and then everything else after that. And let me actually put them close together, because it's like 2 racks pressure, medevac, everything else. It's really easy to transition into a standard Marine Marauder medevac army if you're going for pretty fast medevacs. The issue I have with ghosts is it's kind of like 2 racks pressure, ghosts, then here's the medevac, everything else army. If you go for ghosts, you're kind of veering off so far from the usual composition of just Marine Marauder medevac that it's hard to get the medevacs up quickly enough. So you better do a lot of damage with the ghosts. I've seen it work. It's not like, holy shit, are you going to go really insane trying to make that one function? But it's still important to note that you kind of do have to do damage. And if you don't do that damage in a big way, then you're taking a trip to Frowntown. Odell Ben says, Day 9, how do you think this 2 barracks would do against Feast's PvT style? I'm just going to show you. I'm just going to show it to you. That's the one that I should have done. I can't believe I forgot about that game. Where is that game? Feast, feast, where you feast, multiplayer. I have like so many replays. I have like hundreds of megabytes of replays up here. There's the games against Kos. There's the HGL games Feast MMA on Metalopolis. Great. Let's take a look. Hey, now we're suddenly stretching it to a 20-minute half. Excellent. Now MMA is going to do something. Or did he? I forget. I'm pretty sure he got the stim right away. Feast. Oh yeah, there he is. Chrono bursting away. There's that one. Here's the other one. He builds one, and then 2 more, and then he builds a 3rd one. And here comes the 2 racks. Yeah, MMA gets stim, man. Dude, he gets stim. So Feast, at this point in time, gets the warp in. And this is what I was kind of talking about with the warp in coming on in. It's kind of an awkward time. If you see a 2 racks pressure coming, I would recommend just pulling the probes away entirely, waiting for your warp in of units to arrive, and then gunning it. I really think that probably should have been a stalker, but as you'll note, it's still pretty tricky. Now to note, we see our stim is halfway done. Feast does manage to defend everything pretty adequately. And what were we talking about in terms of shaping a base? Ain't no tech in here, boy. Ain't nothing there. But of course the problem is, and the problem with 2 racks in general, with 2 racks plays, is that the counter swing is very tough to deal with if you're not careful. Feast just bludgeons his way right down the front gates. I think that this could be abated quite a bit by just continuing to keep up the pressure. It's a little bit tougher on this map due to the distances. But there was a period where MMA suddenly got all passive and stuff. And this sort of stalker pressure can be really rough to deal with. And of course we see a delayed starport. He was instead going for the barracks. I would question what was happening back home in the building front when this attack was going pretty darn well down here. Looks like MMA just... yeah, it looks like he just stopped sending the units. He just built a barracks and then decided to start making... yeah, look at that. Surprises me a pinch. Just a smidge. Yeah, it looks like he just wanted to sort of ease up on the aggression, wanted to sort of recollect his army back together. But we don't see any stim in this battle at any point, and this is a really fast way to lose your whole army. I still think the combat shield is what I like a little bit more, hither and thither, etc. I probably need to look at this one a little bit more closely, but, I mean, definitely big stalker groups is one of the banes of this thing's existence. Let's just take... we'll go 15 minutes. Let's just take 2 questions. 2 questions. I actually am going to take this question from Anear798. Day J, how do you decide on what to do for Fun Day Mondays? Well, in general, in terms of the process of a daily, I'll look at whether I've been doing one race for too many times in a row. Like if I did mass queen, then no queen, then all mutalisk. You know, I'm doing zerg, 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 trying to make sure there's some balance. And of course, if I've done like zerg, terran, protoss, I want to do one that everyone can do. Simple as that. I always have a few ideas sort of floating around, and a lot of my Fun Day Monday ideas are inspired from just watching pros do clever things. Like one of the Fun Day Monday topics I wanted to do was you do non-stop queen production, and every time you have 8 queens, you attack. This was inspired from Spanishiwa, who I would see do these sorts of attacks. He would do like these Roach 8 queen attacks early on against Terran, and he'd arrive at the Terran's base with like 6 queens and 10 roaches right when the Terran got medevacs. And then the queens would just kill the medevacs, and it's like their 8-minute investment is now gone. So things like that. And plus I like having fun. Yeah, let me see here. I have some questions about putting pressure back on. Just a lot of stalker pressure is really cool. I really like that. Let's see here. Ascended Narwhal says, Day 9, is Protoss I use a 1-gate robo opener that leads to a 2-3 immortal push. How would this 2-Rax aggression affect my build? I think that it probably wouldn't necessarily change your build so much. In fact, your little buddy Terran is probably looking at you thinking, cool, he is building immortals and building some units, and he's not teching. Nice. That's what I want. The one issue I would say that you'd have with a 2-3 immortal push is that he's going to have Marines with combat shield if he does it right, and your immortals aren't going to be as effective. A lot of times it's easy to bust some Terran players early on because they'll have just Marines with no upgrades, or maybe just Marines, maybe a Marauder in there, but only concussive shell. So there could be some trickiness with that, but the big thing that I foresee is that if you do the push and he has a lot of bunkers there to defend, and then he gets the medevac out and counter pushes, that could give you a lot of trouble. So what I think that it would do to affect your build primarily is that you might see it opt to build 1 to 2 immortals and then immediately get Colossus. I think that's probably going to be a little bit more comfortable because, as we saw within Control, if you get the very fast Colossus up, you can just swap these little drop antics around like nothing. If you try to be counter-aggressive too early against one of these 2-Raxing players, you're probably going to be in for a really, really obnoxious situation. But doing things like getting earlier upgrades, embracing that you're going to be on 2 base for a while, all great ways to play it out. Last question. F5. F5. How would it deal with Fast Templar? It would kill Fast Templar. Straight up. Straight up! Alright, I'm going to take one of the previous questions. People asking questions about other matchups. Okay, so here's another question. From Wishing Poo. Day 9, I noticed in one of today's games, and when watching Pulse streams, some people choose to move out when the second Marauder pops. What is the reason to wait? How does this affect the game? I noticed that in my games, it still hits at a strong timing. I also want to emphasize that it's not one Marauder. For any of you who are unfamiliar with the timing Wishing Poo's talking about, it's not just that it's 2 Marauders and the same thing. It's like 2 Marauders and an extra pair of Marines, with Marines 10 and 11 like hot on the heels of your push. So it ends up being pretty strong. But why do I think that? I don't know if I have a great answer right off the bat, because it's one of those things that would require me to do some research on it. Let me think. Is there anything that pops into mind? You know, there's general questions that I can sort of answer on the fly. You know, like, would it be good to rush for a +1 upgrade when doing this build? And I can be like, oh, probably not. It arrives so late that you won't really be able to do much, just timing-wise, that's hard. But then there's like those real meticulous things, like if you wait an extra 30 seconds, then he has to do 2 full rounds of units, and sometimes he doesn't do that. And if he does if he starts any tech building and then you move out with that push timing, you kill him with a lot higher percentage of the time. Does it do anything that different? I would I'd need a lot of games to give you an answer. I embrace fully that I don't have an answer. I don't know how substantial the difference is. Everything that I've said has just been me sort of theorizing off the top of my head. Have not looked at it, and I'm totally satisfied with that. Yes! Man, I almost tried to break my brain open. Oh, wow, what answer is that? I don't know. Don't know, don't have one for you. Gave you some places to start at least, and hopefully you can tell me. That's the end of the daily. For tomorrow, I'm not doing a daily because it's Friday. For Sunday, I'll be doing a daily because I always do dailies on Sunday. Wiggling my nose a little bit. And I think that over the weekend, I have one day free. Gonna play some Reckoning. Aw, yeah. For next week's Fun Day Monday, please submit to me a game of you starting off as Terran, lifting up into the air and landing somewhere else. And then starting from there, starting from scratch there. Yeah. Submit that to Monday at day9.tv. And until then, hop on the ladders, and every time you lose and you're feeling frustrated, give the most viciously beautiful compliment to your opponent. Always. Because we want to spread. We want to spread dad happy time. I am gonna eat some sashimi. Eat some sashimi tonight. Alright, funny story. I like going to restaurants in LA. That's one of my favorite things about the city. Is that no matter what you want to eat, it's there. And it's not even like there's an Ethiopian restaurant. There's actually a Little Ethiopia by San Vicente and Olympic that has a bunch of great restaurants there, all Ethiopian. And for any of you who have never had Ethiopian food, fantastic. Probably like top 3 favorite kinds of places to eat. Love Ethiopian. And they have this honey wine there too. I was like, what's honey wine? And they're like, it's honey wine. And I oh my god, it's fantastic, right? And the way that Ethiopian food works is they give you a giant plate, and they have just piles of meat and really delicious veggies on it. And you have no utensils, you just have bread, and you just you take your bread like a claw, and you scoop it up, and you just put it all in your mouth. It's so awesome, and it's so good. God, maybe I want to go there tonight just talking about it. Oh, it's incredible. It's so good. What am I talking about? Oh, yeah, so I wanted to go to get some all-you-can-eat sashimi with a friend. And I've been like, hey, let's go to this place. It's called Neptune's Lounge. We're going to go there. It's going to be really good. And we go there, and it doesn't even exist anymore. And I was like, ugh, okay. Well, we'll try to get sashimi next week. Next week, go to this place in J-Town, and it says it's open till 1 a.m. And we get there at like 10:45, and they're like, we close at 10:30. So I'm like, so there's this all-you-can-eat sashimi place right by my house, and we drove there last night, and they're like, we're doing maintenance today, so we just can't do it anymore. It's like the world doesn't want me to get sashimi. I can't believe it. Sucks. I'm so mad. So hopefully after I get off the daily tonight, get some sashimi. That's it. That's it, guys. Peace out.